Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Women's Civic League of Glendale Candidate Forum on March 24th for the GUSD, GCC, and City Clerk races. At this time, I would like to introduce Joylene Wagner from our board, who is going to give you a little bit of history of the Women's Civic League.
Thank you, Grant. Well, as you've all heard, this is our first Zoom candidate forum, but it is not our first candidate forum. The Civic League of Glendale, Women's Civic League of Glendale has been in existence since 1946. And every 2 years, we've conducted candidate forums. And I want to make sure you know that I'll read the purpose of the league. The purpose of the league shall be the study and consideration of civic, economic, and legislative questions and the advancement of civic affairs in the community, state, and nation. The league is non-political, therefore no candidate shall be endorsed and no campaign shall be sponsored. The league is not a fundraising organization. So you're welcome to join us. It's easy. We have a meeting the fourth Thursday of almost every month. And with that, on behalf of the other members of the board and the forum committee, welcome, and we look forward to hearing from you. Back to Grant. I will stop my video and mute myself.
Well, thank you, Jolene. I am Grant Michaels. I am the current president of the Women's Civic League of Glendale. Thank you for joining us in this first experiment of our candidate forum on Zoom. We are looking to have the goals of have an engaging format for this new format, as well as something that is recorded and can be shared with those who weren't able to join us today by watching it on our social media platforms. So as Jolene said, we have a long and storied history. We are encouraging people to join us and become involved, not just in the Women's Civic League of Glendale, but in the civic operation of our city throughout. So to that end, our candidate forum follows our purpose, and we do appreciate all of the candidates and their engagement to help the city and operate. I am going to now start moving candidates into our waiting room as we bring people up, but I'm going to ask Shant Sahakian to join us and start his video. Shant, welcome to the forum. You have an enviable position of being unchallenged in this race. So we appreciate you attending. We'd like to give you time to address the audience. And unopposed candidates, we are giving 5 minutes total time to discuss issues relevant to them. Candidates in contested races, we're going to be giving a total of 10 minutes. We're going to ask questions, give you an opening and a closing statement in an interview style. I will be tracking the total time. So I encourage all candidates to keep track of their own time for their own answers, because when the total time is reached, I will ask you to find your concluding thoughts. So, Jean, would you like to start us off on this forum?
Great, thank you, Grant, and thank you, Joylene. I appreciate it. And good evening or good afternoon to all of our Women's Civic League of Glendale members and community members as well. As an introduction to those that I'm meeting for the first time, my name is Shant Sahakian. I'm a lifelong resident of Glendale, a proud product of our Glendale Public Schools, and a proud GUSD parent with my son Rafi, 5 years old, who is now a TK student, and daughter Lori, 3 years old, who will very soon be a GUSD student as well. I was elected to my first term to represent District D in the first by trustee area election for GUSD in 2017. I became the youngest school board member elected in Glendale history, and currently serve as the president of the Board of Education. Reflecting back during my first term, very proud that we had advanced 21st century academic programs that prepare our students for college, career, and life success. A few of them I'll highlight is a passion of mine is STEAM education. And two of our South Glendale schools, Cerritos Elementary School and Roosevelt Middle School, were converted into STEAM magnet schools. Cerritos now becoming the Cerritos Elementary School Computer Science Magnet, where our K through 6 students at that young age are learning computer science and coding. And Roosevelt Middle School, which is now the Roosevelt Middle School STEAM Academy. And we are now also focused on strengthening that pathway to Glendale High School. We also established financial literacy as a Board of Education priority. And also during my first term, support initiatives that promote healthy, safe, and inclusive schools for all, and provided strong leadership in governance, transparency, and accountability. And during the past year, serving as school board president, we implemented a full and safe reopening of our school campuses. We hosted more than 25 vaccination clinics to provide our students, families, and employees with access to the essential health services and resources they need. We reopened our school board meetings to the public with both in-person and Zoom public communications, with the goal of maximizing public participation and ensuring that all voices can be heard. And we also adopted essential reforms, including my proposal for term limits for school board members. And I'm very grateful to my colleagues, Nairi Nabedian, Greg Krikorian, Jennifer Freeman, and Dr. Armina Garpetian for supporting the initiative. And it will officially be on the ballot this June for our voters to make the ultimate decision to implement term limits. I've worked tirelessly with our students, our parents, our families, our teachers and staff. And it has been one of the most challenging time periods, as you're all aware, not only for our schools, but for our entire community and our country. Looking forward to my second term, the three focus areas for me are going to be, focusing on providing our students with the academic, social, and emotional support that they need, building trusting, collaborative relationships with our parents, families, teachers, and staff, and possibly most importantly, fighting in Sacramento for full and fair funding for public education, which continues to be underfunded, so that we can do all the things we know that our students need and deserve. I'm proud to be endorsed by State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman, Senator Anthony Portantino, and looking forward to the opportunity to continue serving our community. I am running for re-election unopposed, and with 2 young children, I am grateful for the little bit of extra precious time I'll have with my family at home. But as an elected official and as a community member, it is concerning that we have so many races that are unopposed, and that there are barriers that prevent members of the public from running for these public offices. And it was part of the impetus of why I felt so strongly about implementing term limits, so that we hopefully in the long haul can provide more opportunities for our community members to step forward and to take on these very important community leadership roles as we look to the future. As a product of the school district and a product of our community, it's been truly an honor to have this opportunity to serve. And I look forward to our continued work together. And I want to thank you and the Civic League for the opportunity to join you all today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. How can members of the public engage with you who are in your district as well as outside? And how best should people engage with the GUSD?
For me personally, my personal cell phone number is 818-482-9858. Again, 818-482-9858. And I'm happy to speak with any member of our community who has an idea for our school district, who has a concern, who hopefully I can help along with my colleagues on the board and at the school district. But as much as I am unopposed, I do hope to have many opportunities to have coffee meetings and small get-togethers, also to hear from all of our constituents and all of our community members as well. So my goal is to be as accessible as possible, and I definitely encourage members of the public to reach out.
Thank you. Ingrid, I am going to go ahead and move you back into the waiting room. We're going to bring in our Dr. Armina Garpetian next. The candidates, we are having them sit in the waiting room just so that I can better keep track of them. It's easier for me to see a few people in the waiting room than it is to try and find people in the large list of participants. So that is just something logistically that we are doing. So you are not being dropped from the meeting, but you're just somewhere where I can try and keep better track of you. So thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
If you can, thank you. Turn your camera off and mute yourselves. we will, once candidates have had a chance to speak, I will not put them back in the waiting room. So at this time, I'm going to admit Dr. Armina Garpetian and ask her to unmute herself. How about
There we
that?
go.
Okay,
Thank you,
we're
Grant.
figuring out the controls.
That's okay.
So
That's
at this time, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, hello, everyone. First of all, thank you for Women's Civic League of Glendale for hosting this candidate forum and for many, many years. And if somebody can remind me if my membership fee is paid or not, just send me a message. If not, I'll update my status.
Thank you for the
I will.
membership plug.
Yes, yes, I encourage everyone to become a member. I will go ahead and read my candidate statement, which will go on every single ballot on when the ballots, the sample ballots go out. So I think that's a good start for people who don't know me. So my name is Dr. Armina Garpetian, and I currently serve on the Board of Education. But this is my candidate statement. It has been my honor to serve on the GUSD Board of Education since 2013. As a parent of 3 children and a 34-year resident of Glendale, and all of it in Area C, in Verdugo Woodlands area, I take great pride in the excellent schools in our city. As a GCC and UCLA alumni, I have always been an advocate for public education. Serving as the board president during my 2 terms, I acquired extensive knowledge and experience in solving important issues facing our children's education by constantly focusing on students' achievement, campus safety, and ensuring fiscal solvency. I have been a trusted voice representing students, parents, teachers, and staff through transparency and collaboration. As a healthcare professional and a parent, I have always been at the forefront of ensuring the health and safety of our GUSD community, especially during the pandemic. During my 2 terms on the GUSD board, some of my main focuses have been to improve technology infrastructure, upgrade our facilities / classrooms, and expanding educational pathways for every student. I am especially proud of my efforts in encouraging parent engagement and improving student connectedness. I am seeking re-election to continue advocating for our youth and opening doors for more innovative opportunities for all students. If you would like to learn more about me, you are more than welcome to check my website. It's www.drarmina, that's everybody calls me that, Dr. Armina, DRARMINA 2022.com. And I'll speak more about what my passions are during, I think my 2 minute is up, Grant.
Well, you're keeping track of the time. We're trying a different format, but
Okay.
I will go ahead and ask you our first question.
Sure.
Enrollment across much of California has been declining since before COVID, accountable in large part, according to many reports, of the high cost of housing, now stemming from a variety, both public, private, distance learning programs available to families. This poses a challenge to public schools whose funding is based on enrollment. What are your thoughts on this issue in respect to your area in particular? Do you have concerns about middle and high school students that are seeking permits to attend school in other districts or other areas? And what steps can GUSD take to address the challenge of declining enrollment?
Sure, thanks for the question. I think it is a very concerning question. And every time we have budget study, that's the first thing I bring up, that enrollment is an issue. And it is not unique to GUSD. It is a California issue that enrollment has gone down. And that's mainly because of cost of living and high cost of living and housing, high cost of housing. It is a California issue. So what we can do as a community, as stakeholders, we all need to be on the same page. I think funding is the number one the driving force for school districts. If we don't have enough funding, and as you all know, California is the 49th on the per pupil funding. So we have to do better. California has to do better. So what we need to do, we need to create a coalition of parents, educators, students, community stakeholders, businesses, a whole variety of individuals that really care about our schools. We have wonderful one. GUSD has exceptional schools, but we need funding. That's the one thing that we all need to be fighting for this. I have gone to Sacramento several times to fight for what's right for our students, and we need to do better. California needs to do better. We have to push our governor and our legislators to provide funding. I am proud that very recently the Board of Education has sent or adopted a resolution in Senator Portantino's the SB 830, I believe. I forgot the number, but there are several legislators going out there that I personally would like to support, because that will provide extra funding for all school districts in California. So let's bring our forces together and fight for what's right for our students. Funding is a must. Thank you, Grant.
Thank you for that. Just as a note, we have less than 4 minutes left, so do keep track of the time.
Got it.
Our next question is obviously addressing COVID and the district's response. Do you have any specific comments on the district's decision-making process? Has it paid adequate attention to the concerns of parents, teachers, health officials? Coming out of the pandemic, some districts have eliminated D's and F's on report cards in favor of do-overs or incomplete. Would you be inclined to adopt such a policy?
Okay, let me address the COVID response from GUSD. So from day one, we have always followed the LA County Public Health Guideline. We are obligated to do that, but we have gone above and beyond what was asked for us to do. We have, so these are the first, the silver linings that we're talking about. We have our technology infrastructure. Before pandemic, the ratio was 1-to-3. That means every 3 students had one device. But now, because of COVID, because we had to make sure that every student has connectivity, every student has access to Chromebook, our ratio is 1-to-1 right now. So we have even during pandemic, we haven't skipped a bit. Now, you specifically asked about the grading policy. I don't think that, we need to look carefully in this. I am the type of the person that not everything is based on grades. I think the whole child needs to be taken into consideration. We have students with multiple learning disabilities, but you know what? If we provide the support that the students need, grades are grades. It's passing or failing, whatever you want to call it. That really doesn't define what our students are learning. Teachers are teaching and students are learning, but grades, not every grade shows, because some students have difficulty taking tests. So that is not a valid, factor in whether saying the student has learned the material, because every student has some sort of a learning disability. Even test taking it could be challenging for some students. So
we're
that would be my
down
answer.
to about a minute left. Do you want to go ahead
ahead.
and give your closing and any thoughts?
Oh, okay, closing. Well, your vote for Armina is a vote for experience, integrity, and trust. I consider myself a very active member of this community. I have been involved with so many nonprofit organizations. I'll just name a few: Glendale Youth Alliance Board, Glendale YMCA Board, Verdugo Hills Council Boy Scouts of America Board, Glendale Clean and Beautiful Board. I proudly served as the chair for the poster contest, the I Love My Neighborhood poster contest. GUSD Superintendent's Facility Advisory Committee, LA County School Trustees Association, Glendale Council PTSA All-Star member, hoo-hoo. And I'm currently the Glendale High School PTSA board member and proud Kiwanis of Glendale member. My passion is all about educating our kids, making sure that they are healthy, their mental health is good, they're in good standing, their physical health is good, because without the mental and physical health, kids cannot perform. So, we never skipped a big bit, even during pandemic. We provided food every single day, even the schools were shut down because, Grant, is my time up?
I'm going to go ahead and ask you to wrap up.
Okay, vote for Dr. Armina, and I am ready to serve our community for another term. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, thank you for joining us. I'll ask you to go ahead and turn your camera off and mute yourself.
Sure.
Thank you for participating in the forum. And again, we are going to try the total time limits. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in Ingrid Gunnell. Ingrid, if you can turn your camera on. So, welcome to the Women's Civic League Candidate Forum. I again will remind you that we're giving candidates a total time limit of 10 minutes. Do keep track of the time of your answers. And please begin with your opening statement.
Good morning. Thank you, or it's noon. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here today. I would like to recognize that we are on the ancestral lands of the First Nations people, the Tongva people, and that is where we are learning and listening today. My name is Ingrid Gunnell, and I am running for GUSD School Board Area B. I'm a lifelong resident of Glendale, born and raised here, and now I'm a parent in the district of 2 boys at the senior high school level at Hoover. I'm a 24-year educator in LAUSD. We are at a pivotal moment in public education. More than 50% of classroom teachers express interest in leaving the profession. We cannot attract and retain educators at all levels, inclusive of classroom teachers, school nurses, classified personnel, including custodial workers, office workers, assistants, translators. I am running for this seat because we cannot let anybody be on our school boards, and I'm not just talking about Glendale, I'm talking across the nation, who is not 100% in for public education. My main 3 topics or platform ideas that I'm running on is truth and education. We cannot allow the erasure of entire groups of people from our curriculum and from our schools. I'm running on increased collaboration with our labor unions and labor partners to make sure that our employees are not only appreciated, but compensated fairly and adequately, and increase mental health supports for both students and educators. We're at a crisis level in education, and that is why I decided to run for this seat. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first question is: enrollment across much of California has been declining since before COVID, attributable in large part, according to reports, to the high cost of housing, but now also stemming from the variety of both public and private distance learning programs available to families. This poses a challenge to public schools whose funding is based on enrollment. What are your thoughts on this issue? In regard to your area in particular, do you have concerns about middle and high school students seeking permits to take advantage of schools outside of the area? What steps might GUSD take to address the challenge of declining enrollment?
So yeah, we are not only in declining enrollment because of the unaffordable housing crisis, but also the declining birth rate. We are seeing a mass, not a mass exodus, but an exodus of people from California, not just students from our public education system, but people that can't afford to live here. We need to make sure that we address, you specifically asked about middle and high school students. That's where my boys are both at Hoover. We do have wonderful programs, but if we don't have wonderful and amazing, well-compensated adults to teach those programs, we will have a mass exodus of both educators and students. We need to make sure that our schools are places that are inclusive of all, and we should apply to be community schools. My understanding is that GUSD has not applied for the approximately $3 billion set aside for community schools. I think that is one way to stem the flow of students exiting our school system. Additionally, we need to make sure that we continue to keep out charter schools, unregulated charter schools from this district, because that is another drain on our public school system.
Thank you. The next question is about the district's response to COVID. Do you have any comments about the decision-making process? Has it paid adequate attention to the concerns of parents, teachers, and health officials? Additionally, coming out of the pandemic, some districts have eliminated D's and F's on report cards in favor of do-overs or marks of incomplete. Would you be inclined to adopt such a policy at the high school and middle school level?
So in terms of the pandemic, Glendale Unified did the bare minimum that was required by the county Department of Public Health and the County Office of Education. I was very disappointed in the response. As recently as a few weeks ago at 9 p.m. at night, as a parent, we got an email that said that the outdoor mask mandate was lifted. They couldn't have even waited 3 more days for the weekend. I thought the response was less than adequate. I personally kept my boys home the remainder of the school year last year because of low COVID vaccination rates amongst the students and because of the lack in safety measures. I also felt that the school board made a very poor decision in not allowing the employees to have the 2-week vaccination efficacy period and force them back into the classrooms. The school board has stated that school safety is a top priority, but as a parent, I did not feel that that was true. In terms of making up grades, a lot of districts and teachers themselves have shifted to a concept called mastery learning and grading or equity grading. I don't only think that that is a good shift for coming out of the pandemic. I think that is a fair and excellent shift just in general. It's more reflective of a student's learning than the traditional either bell curve, which most people don't use, or the more traditional average. So I am in favor of that. My own boys are experiencing, the remote learning at the high school, the end of middle school and high school levels. I'm in full support of legislation that has allowed and continues to allow makeup of classes, especially classes needed for graduation and the A through G requirements. Not only am I in full support, I would be in favor of expanding those. Our students, even those students coming out of late elementary into middle school, will have long-lasting trauma from the pandemic and just from trauma that has been happening in our country for the last several years. So yes, I'm in full favor of the current measures and expanding those measures to allow for class makeups and for a shift in our grading system, only with the full support of classroom teachers, not a top-down mandate, but a bottom-up decision-making process.
With less than 3 minutes to go with our time, what is the question that you wanted me to ask, and what is your answer?
I don't want to feed people questions. I think people have their own concerns, but maybe a question that I would have appreciated is the question about truth in education. I firmly believe that we need to teach accurate, not whitewashed history. I believe that our textbooks and school materials need to reflect an inclusive student and teacher population. I believe that we need to make an increased and focused effort on recruiting educators, specifically educators of color, and even more specifically, Black men into our profession and to teach our students. I believe representation matters. I believe we need to make sure that LGBTQIA+ students and faculty are represented, felt in, are made to feel included and not made to feel scared on campus. I also believe that we need to address the continued language of the N-word on our campuses, and we need to make sure that our Black students feel that they are safe on our campuses, and that any school that wants to have a Black student club is allowed to have that.
Thank you. You've got about a minute left for your closing.
Thank you. Again, I want to appreciate the opportunity to speak here today. I want to thank the parents, the community members, and the educators who are currently supporting me. I look forward to meeting more people along this journey. As a 24-year educator, win, lose, or draw on June 7th, I will be back to work on June 8th with LAUSD. Public education is my life, and it's my life's work.
Thank you. I'll now ask you to mute yourself and turn your camera off. We're going to admit Kathleen Cross to the meeting. Kathleen, if you can turn your camera on.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, good. And you can't hear my dogs?
They don't seem to be heard, but
That's perfect.
we're ready for you to begin with your opening.
All right, perfect. Hi, everybody. Zoom is always weird for me because I never know where to look and I want to look at the cameras. I'm running for GUSD school board, obviously, in District C. And a little bit about me, I grew up in Seattle and I moved down to Sonoma to play soccer for Sonoma State. I got my undergraduate degree there in criminal justice. And then I found out that it could stay sunny all the time. And I was like, this is amazing. I chased that sun down to Southern California and I got my master's degree in social work at Cal State LA. And between both my undergraduate and my graduate, my focus was always on dual diagnosis youth, creating programs for youth within the criminal justice system. So forensics really means of the court. And so I worked with that. I then currently work as well as a social worker for families looking to adopt children. And then I also work as a director of operations for a property management company. So I've always been a little bit busy, a little bit hyper. I really am passionate about learning and education. I moved to the Glendale school district specifically for these schools. I lived in a different area and I knew I wanted to be a part of this district. And so I moved up to La Crescenta and I brought my 3 kids there. And all 3 kids went through the TK program, which was amazing for us. And then my husband got sick and he, the next 4 years was really just us struggling to kind of keep our family together, to keep him healthy in and out of hospitals. And my world just fell apart. During that time, I couldn't have gotten through it without the schools, without the community that was there. I had to move in order to afford a home on my own in case he didn't get better. So I moved in 2018 and was lucky enough to be welcomed into the community of Ross Moline with open arms. At that point, he went to Georgia because he needed to be taken care of by his family. And I stayed here with the kids because we wanted to keep their world as secure as possible. So I navigated the permit process and I kept my kids with their great friends and the great community that they have at their home school or at their original schools. And then became a part of this community here, which is in District C. And it really gave me an appreciation for how diverse our district is, how big it is. You know, there's so many different things in here. And I really watched as our community seemed to kind of break apart during COVID. And it was a community that was so strong for me when I needed it. And I realized that this is my opportunity to step up and use my voice to help bring our community, bring our schools back together, to bring that strength. And so that's why I'm running for school board.
Our first question is, enrollment across much of California has been declining since before COVID, attributable in large part to the high cost of housing, but now also stemming from the variety of both public and private distance learning programs available to families. This poses a challenge to public schools whose funding is based on enrollment. What are your thoughts on this in regard to your area in particular? Do you have concerns about middle and high school students seeking schools in other districts or areas? What steps might GUSD take to address the challenge of declining enrollment?
There are a lot of questions in that question. It's a good one. Okay, so I think that some of this goes all the way up to the state level. So right now we have attendance-based funding. So that basically means, you know, you're getting paid while the kid is in the seat. And State Bill 830 is looking at doing what is enrollment-based funding. So that would, for our district especially, that would increase the funding based on the kids who are enrolled to go to those schools. But then you look at, okay, so why are we losing these kids in junior high and high school? Where are they going? I think it's really important that there are, you know, those surveys, those exit surveys, and we really looked at that information. One thing that I think has gone on is that we have these incredible programs, right? But the flag came in, and that is an incredible program. And there's so many languages, and it starts to, you know, the idea of how do we put this in the junior high? Do we have room for it in junior high? Do we have room for it in the high school? So we lost a lot of those flag students to other programs. We have incredible magnet schools, like just awesome. And I think a part of what would help with our enrollment and help, you know, retain these students is knowing that these programs exist, knowing that all of our junior highs, all of our high schools are absolutely fantastic, and they offer all of these different options for learning, so that parents know, okay, we can use, you know, A, B, C, or D. We can go to any of these schools within the district. We can, you know, work on these passions that my children have, and I don't have to leave the district to get there. I also think it's important, you know, understanding the cost of living here is very high. So how do we work with ensuring that people are able to afford to live, you know, in this great area, and retain those amazing teachers that have been doing this for a long time. They know what they're doing. They know what these kids need, and we need to keep those teachers.
Thank you. With about 3.5 minutes left, our next question is, how do you think GUSD has done with the response to COVID? Do you have any comments on the district's processes and decision-making? Has it paid adequate attention to the concerns of parents, teachers, and health officials? Coming out of the pandemic, some districts eliminated D's and F's on report cards in favor of marks of incomplete. Would you be inclined to adopt such a policy at the middle and high school level?
I want to say that I'm very happy with how GUSD handled the pandemic, because I'm a very strength-based person. I'm a very positive individual, but I do reflecting the voices that I've heard from our community. They were not very happy with the way the pandemic was handled. And I think a lot of that, again, does go down to the way communication was given. I think that it's important to note that nobody knew what they were doing. No one's been through a pandemic before. It's not like there was a clear, you know, designation and design of what everyone was supposed to do. But unfortunately, I feel like instead of saying we're doing our best, even though we don't know exactly what to do next, we're gonna work on it. We're gonna figure it out. Here is a clearly communicated outline of what we're going to do. These are why we're making the rules that we're making. Instead of doing that, it was very quiet. So the parents were kind of kept out of the loop. And I think anybody can understand that when you are kept out of the loop, you tend to make up your own ideas. And when you make up your own ideas, they may not always be accurate. And so I think that that truly created a lot of fear within parents. I think parents didn't know where to get answers. I think teachers didn't know where to get answers. So it kind of put people against each other in a way that maybe didn't need to happen. I think that honestly, I'm in favor of any program that would really help children show that they understand the knowledge. They don't have to show it on the first time. They don't have to show it on the second time. Can they get there? Can we help get them to the place where they are not failing? They're figuring it out. They don't have to, you know, get sky high grades all the time. But what they do need to do is master this, understand it. And can we get them there?
Thank you. You've got about a minute left for your closing.
Okay, so for my closing, I just want to reach out to everybody who's watching this, you know, either live or the recording of it. And I want you to know you can reach out to me anytime. We do have a website, which is catcrossforgusd.com. And I know that one of the things that I bring to the board will be consistent kindness, honesty, transparency. It doesn't matter how much we communicate if the information isn't being received. So my goal is that I can find a way to help ensure that all of our community is able to receive the information, the reasoning from the board, so that all of that transparency that is being talked about can actually be absorbed by the public. I'm very, very fiercely dedicated to our children. It is what I love. I absolutely adore being a mom. I am so lucky to have this experience. And I want to just continue to strengthen our district and continue to make it a destination for excellence. Thank you for giving me the time, you guys.
Thank you very much for joining us. If you can go ahead and turn your camera off, mute, we welcome you to stay for the rest of the forum. Unfortunately, another candidate, Lerna Amirians, for Area C, had a conflict and was not able to join us today. We do encourage everyone to learn about the candidates. The city website, glendalevotes.org, does list all of the candidates and their information. So we encourage you to learn about the candidates, make an informed decision, and most of all, participate in the process and vote in this election. So that concludes the GUSD section of our forum. We now will be moving into the GCC section, and I appreciate that the candidates who are running unopposed for GCC, even though they won't be on the ballot, they have joined us, and I'm going to ask Yvette to turn on her camera, unmute herself, and speak with us.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Grant, and all the members of the Women's Civic League of Glendale for inviting us today. Just to keep it short for everybody's time so that the candidates who do have incumbents have a little bit more time. With opponents do have a little bit more time to speak. Just to introduce myself, my name is Yvette Bartanian Davis. I am a Glendale resident, grew up here in Glendale, went to Glendale Education Schools. Glendale College was where I started my collegiate education, and I'm so proud to serve on that college board. In my first term, I was elected to the statewide California Community College League of California, so that I get to represent all of the trustees in the state of California, and more so be a voice for our city on a statewide level, so that we can really affect changes that really make a difference for us here in our community. I'm very proud to serve in Glendale. This is my home. It's always been my home. And that's pretty much it.
Again, thank you for connecting with our audience.
Thank you.
How best can members in your district and the public at large in the city reach out to you and engage with the college?
I'm always available for anybody who needs to reach out. They're welcome to our meetings. Our meetings are open, but they're always welcome to reach out to me as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So, Again, if you can turn off your camera, thank you. I'm going to ask Ann Ransford to join us, turn on her camera and unmute.
Mute.
There we
And
are, Ann.
can you see me? Oh, yeah, good. Okay,
Yes.
great.
So
Thank you. Well, some of this may be repetitious, but I've chosen to kind of talk about our challenges. Anybody that was at the meeting yesterday of the Chamber of Commerce heard a wonderful litany of our wonderful accomplishments from Dr. Vire. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenges that the Board of Trustees have. So to begin with, my thanks to the Women's Civic League for the opportunity to share my thoughts about the future of Glendale Community College. Our first big challenge is a change in leadership. I know you all are aware that Dr. David Vire, who has been our leader, is retiring as of June 30th. In fact, next week, we will be conducting interviews with 5 candidates that have been thoroughly screened for their technical skills by a committee of college and community individuals. On Monday and Tuesday, there will be forums that will be broadcast on YouTube. And on Tuesday and Wednesday, the Board of Trustees will be interviewing the individuals. Hiring a superintendent president is the most important responsibility of our Board of Trustees. Hopefully, an announcement will be coming in the middle of April. Another challenge, we've been talking about this. Another challenge for the future of Glendale Community College is declining enrollment. And while there are things that we can do, we can look at our programs, we can find possibly new groups of students. Some of this is beyond our control, and that's what I want to speak to. This is not just a situation at Glendale College, but a concern for community colleges and K-12 districts across the nation. Sadly, the most vulnerable students are the ones likely to drop out with need for employment and childcare, particularly due to the pandemic. These students have had to put attending college on the back burner. It's a perfect storm, and some of the reasons for declining enrollment is there is declining population in California. California has lost population for the first time in the state's history. Birth rates are down, death rates are up, and migration is down. Total fertility rates for 2020 is 1.52, down from 2.20 in 2007. A total fertility rate of 2.1 is considered necessary to avoid population decline. Now, here's more information that you might not want, but I'm going to share it about what is fertility rate is, but it is often used to help determine replacement rates, which determine if the number of new citizens born each year is higher or lower than the number of citizens who pass away each year. Population growth or shrinkage have a significant impact on the country's development and economic stability, and we are experiencing all that. And I also want to make note that the EdSource is having a roundtable this afternoon on declining enrollment, and it's called what can the legislature and districts do to soften the effect? It's at 4:00 today. And if anybody wants more information, they could email me, annransford@mac.com, annransford@mac.com, and I'd be happy to forward you the information. Well, in addition, there are fewer teen pregnancies, college debt, housing costs, which we've already talked about, and enormous struggles of young people to establish financial independence. Average age for first marriages for women has surpassed 30 for the first time. Percentage of women in 20s living with their parents is 46%, and 51% of men in their 20s are living with their parents. So it is a perfect storm, and there are things that we can possibly do, but we have to recognize that this is reality at the moment. Another challenge for the college is the implementation of the new funding formula, the student center funding formula. Instead of funding the college on enrollment alone, the college is now funded on 70% on enrollment and the other 30% on numbers of students receiving grants, the number of students earning AA degrees, the students transferring to four-year colleges, and the number of students who complete transfer level English the first year, and the number of students who leave the college with jobs attaining a regional living wage. Now, there is a great positive here. It's not all negative. Grant, I can't see you smiling. I'm looking at your very stern face there. Anyway,
Well,
a great
I'm trying
positive
to be
for the
objective, but you're also giving very, very serious news.
I know, I know. A great positive for the college is a new program that's helping students obtain success, Guided Pathways. Over the last 5 years, the college has worked hard to implement this program across the curriculum. The Guided Pathways framework creates a highly structured approach to student success that provides all students with a set of clear course-taking patterns to promote better enrollment decisions and prepare students for future success.
Thank
And
you,
I happen
Anne.
to sit on the, pardon?
Thank you. Our time is up. I do
Oh,
appreciate you engaging with us as well as sharing
okay.
how people can engage with you after the election and throughout your term. But at this point, I'd like to move on to Armine Akopian.
Okay,
So if
thank
I can,
you.
thank
Can
you,
I just
Anne.
say thank you for the opportunity? That was my close.
Thank you. If you can turn off your camera and mute yourself, Armine, I'm go.
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, we can. So
Very good, very good. Thank you. I want to thank the Women's Civic League in Glendale. I was a member at one time, so I hold you in high regard. So thanks for this opportunity. I want to let your viewers know that I've been a resident of Glendale for 52 years. I'm a child of immigrant. I was an immigrant. At age 16, I came here without speaking any English. So I have a total understanding and compassion for students like me. I've been a lifelong educator. I'm passionate about students. I have obviously a bachelor's. I have 2 master's degrees. I have 6 credentials and a doctorate in organizational leadership and educational administration. I have worked for LAUSD, Burbank USD, and Glendale USD, and all the way from kindergarten organizing programs to serving on dissertation committees. I also taught graduate school at CSUN and Cal State LA. The challenges and the issues I look at as our challenge and our opportunity. I look at new trends and how that could be utilized to increase our enrollment. The advent of technology is great, and we saw how our teachers and students in 2 weeks were able to switch to teaching and learning remotely. So I want to thank our faculty and staff and students for doing that. But what we've learned should really propel us to be a state-of-the-art hub of technology in Glendale. And that is one of my goals, so that we are able to reach students globally. We can no longer count on enrollment from local districts, from our own district, but we need to attract students globally. Also, we are hard at work with the new superintendent and president search. We are also going to be facing state accreditation, and we would like to get the 7-year accreditation cycle. As we've done in the past. It's important for people to know that Glendale Community College is considered in the top 10 in the state, and there's some areas in the nation that we are one. Another issue that it will really help our community and those who attend is our construction. We are constructing a new state-of-the-art science center that will be the envy of every community college. And I want to thank our Glendale voters who voted for a bond measure, $325 million bond measure in 2016. One of the things that we need to get better at is community engagement. This is a community college. We need to establish a better presence in social media platform so that we can attract our neighbors, our communities, our community organizations to Glendale Community College. We've been ranked as the most beautiful campus in the nation, in the top 5 tier. The other issue that is important to me is the shared governance, shared decision-making. It's important to make sure that those who are closest to instructing students are involved in the decisions that impact students and impacts them. So in reality, it's all about student inclusion, student access, success, and diversity. I also want to highlight that we are in great collaboration with Glendale Unified School District. Last year, we had more than 1,000 students who participated in dual and joint programs. We have Early College Academy where students and in college, students in high school can get a college degree at the same time as they graduate from high school. We have science academies, we have visual arts academies, and we are working very closely together to address student needs and look at the trends in our economy and the careers of the future, which is going to take us to the next decade. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you stay for the rest of our meeting, but I would ask you to go ahead and turn your camera off, mute yourself. I am going to go ahead and move our next candidates for the city clerk into the waiting room so I can keep better track of them. And I am going to bring in first Greg Kerkorian. Greg, if you can turn your camera on and...
Yes, I'm getting there. My screen is there. Is it on, Grant?
Yes, we can hear you, Greg. So welcome, and please begin with your opening.
Well, Grant, thank you, and I'd like to thank the Women's Civic League of Voters giving us the opportunity. And it's an exciting time and challenging time for our country and for our city itself. As many of you know, Christine and I moved here in 1989 from Hartford, Connecticut and Detroit, Michigan to Glendale, specifically because of the quality of schools. And my father and I opened up a small business life back in 1990 and still publishing now to this day. Throughout that time, my wife and I raised 5 children. All 5 have graduated from Glendale schools. My twins, oldest, one is a police officer in Pasadena PD, and my oldest and her brother's a CPA working for a firm there. And each child, Armin's involved in his work and working in dispatch in the community. Cedon teaches in the district, and Hike's presently at CSUN. Throughout that time, Christine and I really embraced Glendale. We've been here throughout all this time, engaged in so many activities from Jewel City Little League, JW Little League, where we started the first Challenger program for disabled adult young children to play softball and Little League. Throughout that time and all those years serving Little League, very active in AYSO soccer, coaching our community, being involved in major organizations too, like the Kiwanis Club of Glendale, Vertigo Hills Boy Scouts of America, Salvation Army. The list goes on to community involvement my wife and I have done in the city of Glendale, which we cherish. Everyone most recently knows for the past 21 years, I've been honored to serve on the Glendale Board of Education. We weathered some tough storms. We weathered financial crises. We maintained staff and structured and financial expansion of projects, programs that everyone enjoys going into today's times. And now it's been a challenge, obviously, with COVID, and the whole community and country has been a challenge itself. But through that time, we've always built professional development, not only understanding our city. I've embarked in an organizational leadership program, have my master's organizational leadership with cost containment, help running offices to find solutions to serve our residents throughout San Gabriel Valley and San Fernando Valley, which I worked on. Presently, as a Board of Education member, we did a myriad of things of bond measures to help improve our facilities. This is a unique opportunity for me now to take the next stage. All five of my children have graduated, and now I'm at a point in life where I can expand my services to all the residents of Glendale. The city clerk's office is the gateway to City Hall. And just recently completing the first stage of clerk training with the California Clerks Association, I just went through nuts and bolts training of being an effective clerk and how to work together. The staff there is great right now. I'm encouraged to look forward to working, collaborating with the president's staff that's there in the city clerk's office and expand upon it. One thing that I've been doing during this time too has been expanding on different cities of what the clerk's office is doing and how he or she could strengthen this opportunity for accessibility for all residents. And that's a critical thing here. Is one thing is that our campaigns on is truth, honesty, transparency, accessibility. But Grant, I'm eager to move ahead with some questions we may have and moving forward with the process.
Well, thank you. Our first question, election integrity is in the headlines today. How do you see your role as city clerk to ensure election integrity in Glendale?
Well, pride on integrity and ethics and character has been the lifelong bread of my family. My father raised 8 children in Hartford, Connecticut, and my dad was a Korean War veteran as a sergeant. And he installed that foundation of character and trust and respect for our country, be it in Connecticut, Detroit, Michigan, now 32 years in Glendale, California. That exemplifies my service in our community of even the Silver Beaver Award for Boy Scouts of America, which is the highest award of integrity, character, and merit. And that's one thing I professed my own values, and I installed that values onto my 5 children who are presently in Glendale. I love Glendale. And you see it in the passion here of how much I love Glendale itself, and it embarks on my whole mission of what we're doing. And the accountability is essential. Accountability, integrity, and transparency is critical in this seat. And it's going to be a process that we're going to do together. And one thing I promise is to holding that honor of transparency and accountability.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As you already mentioned, the credentials for city clerk are often learned while on the job. How will you structure your department while you earn those qualifications?
Well, that's really getting way in front of things because you got to develop a plan together with the team. When you look at the process of going into an office, you work as a collaboration, as a unified force with the president staff, the city manager, and the city's attorney's office. It's a cross collaboration of building structure and efficiency. At the end of the day, we're here for the residents. I'm here for all the residents and giving accessibility for all of them, no matter what their background is and where they are, and seniors accessibility, and creating innovative ways. The more structure we have, Grant, and we go into office, we create accessibility avenues for our residents to get records requests, permits. It helps the fabric of our city council, helps the functionality of the city manager's office, and its collaboration. It's not about Greg. Greg recording is a piece of the puzzle for what's in place already. So I'm already encouraged and I'm very excited about some of the programs and classes I've already taken already. Through the month of February, I've been engaged in clerk training classes and that embarkment. But taking a step backwards and looking at this, there's a lot of ways we're there to serve the residents. We're behind to all of them. And that's what I'm really excited about, Grant.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What question did you want me to ask, and what would be your answer?
Well, the question is, I know the past few years, the office has been downsized, and there's a lot of responsibilities and needs that are done to our community and our residents. And it's important because the city clerk's office is the functionality of the election process, public records requests, running events, access to city council members, permits. I know they've streamlined some of the permits, filming permits outside, and passports that have moved on. The more that we can provide our residents and the more resources we can provide our residents is something I'm really eager to. My, development in UCLA, when I was going through the executive MBA program and getting problem solving, coming up with solutions, not challenge, and dividing them together as a collaboration. Having that is a question really, it's just the beginning process, Grant, because it's a long way that we're gonna be doing this. Your professional development is never complete. And when you have that, and how I embodied my leadership roles and commitment for this community itself, everyone here today that's lived in Glendale for a long time knows our commitment to the city. I'm committed to the city of Glendale, and I'm committed to the city council and to the city clerk and to the city manager and to all the residents. And this is a team approach. And having that question there of, how we strengthen the office is going to be a collaboration with input from many sources and listening. That's why I have the three A's in my campaign part of accessibility, A, accountability, A, attentiveness, and having an attention to our residents and finding out it's not about the have and have nots, it's about everybody. Everyone will have access and opportunities to work with the city. And if there's ways that we could be innovative and open-minded with things, I'm excited about what I'll bring with that in that way. And the question's more about, about the downsizing and how we bring strengthening it to be more serviceable for all the residents itself.
Well, thank you. You have about 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Well, as I mentioned before, my father, John, and I came out to California in 1990 to start a small business. And we weathered many storms together. So it shows already my financial stability and leadership, what I could do in an office, not only what we did in the Glendale Board of Education for 20 years, staying financially solvent and prudent. Yes, we want to pay our teachers the best. And yes, we want all of our staff to have the best. But at the same time, we have the students. We have to look at class size, our programs. Coming up with the flag program is one thing I'm very proud of that I took the leadership and bringing back in 2005, coming up with innovative ideas that are going to help our community. What Greg Krikorian brings is you bring a lifelong commitment to the city of Glendale. Greg Krikorian brings 5 family members who've been born and raised in Glendale itself. And also I've been committed from all aspects, from the Little League to the business and chambers of commerce and all the different diverse groups, not to mention all the women's groups that I have a big part of that I've worked with throughout the years. The diversity itself, I embrace. From all the different walks of life, I embrace. Having the benefit of understanding what the Glendale Unified School District and also my colleagues in the Glendale GCC board and work with the present council members from way back when, from Larry all the way to present council members now. I have that whole embodied. And the big thing, critical thing with Greg is the approachability. I work with everybody, and that's what our residents need. We need that. And I'm committed, and I'm asking for everyone on June 7th to vote for Greg Krikorian for Glendale City Clerk for accountability, transparency, and attentiveness. And that's where it stands here. Grant, and also people can learn more about my campaign by visiting Greg 2022. And you can email us there at info@greg2222 for more information itself. But, really excited about this opportunity, Grant. And, in life, things like this, it's a unique opportunity that it is an open seat. And I'm looking forward to June 7th.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate you coming out.
Thanks, Grant. Appreciate
going-
everyone joining and everyone online too. Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and ask you to
Yes, sir.
mute yourself and turn your camera off, and we will bring in Dr. Susie Abajian. Dr. Susie Abajian, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Grant. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Susie Abajian. I would first like to thank the Women's Civic League for hosting this forum. I'm running for the office of Glendale City Clerk because I care deeply about Glendale, and I believe that my city deserves a qualified candidate who is passionate about transparency, access, and voter empowerment. Glendale is the city where I was raised. I graduated from Glendale High School and is the city where I have chosen to raise my family. As a working mother of a 2-year-old and as an educator of 24 years, I understand the need for our residents to have easy access to information about city services and processes. As an experienced educational administrator and small business owner, I have extensive knowledge in record keeping, managing staff, interfacing with the public, and ensuring organizational compliance with the law. As a former school board member, school board clerk, and school board president, I have a deep understanding of the Brown Act, the Public Records Act, and fair political practices within governmental entities. When elected, I will push for transparency through good information governance, and open data. I will advocate for closing of the data divide while taking into consideration cybersecurity. I will push for access by making city records, services, and information more accessible to our residents. I will accomplish this by modernizing the city website, providing an easy platform where residents can get information in different languages when feasible, and file paperwork electronically when allowed by law. I will push for voter empowerment through increasing voter registration and voter engagement. I will advocate for all eligible voters to be able to fully participate in the electoral process. A little bit about me. I have worked in K through 12 and higher education for the past 24 years. I received my PhD in education from UCLA, and I was named Woman of the Year by Congresswoman Judy Chu. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to the public and answer any questions that you have today.
Well, thank you. Our first question, election integrity, is in the headlines today. What do you see your role as city clerk as to ensure election integrity in Glendale?
Election integrity for me is about ensuring that all eligible voters are able to fully participate in the electoral process. That means that I need to be able to ensure that there's no voter suppression, there's no voter intimidation, and provide access to all of our residents, whether that's seniors or folks that have different languages as their first language, to be able to provide for them the information that they need in a way that they can access it and fully understand who they're voting for and what processes, city processes they're participating in. I think that's what it's all about.
Thank you. The credentials for city clerk are often learned on the job. How will you structure your department while you earn those credentials?
I will work collaboratively with the staff. I will get to know the staff and look at their expertise, their different areas of expertise, and bring that to the table when making decisions, when looking at new policies within the department that we have to institute. And I also, what really matters in this case is to have somebody who has the skills, the organizational skills, the seriousness, the attention to detail, and the temperament to be the interface between the public and the city, and also work collaboratively and engage the staff at the city level. And those are things that I have experience with because I have been an administrator, I have been in charge of staff, and I have done this sort of work, even though it's not within the position of city clerk, but I have engaged in this type of leadership in my work.
Thank you. And what question would you have wanted me to ask you, and what is your answer?
The question that I would have liked you to have asked me was, what is your understanding of the office of city clerk? What does the city clerk do, and why you in particular are qualified to do this job well? My understanding of the position of city clerk is that the city clerk is the keeper of city records. The city clerk oversees elections, municipal elections. The city clerk is the compliance officer for the Brown Act and also is in charge of public records requests. And those are things that I have done in different ways in my positions, both on the school board and also as an educational administrator working at the county level. I have been in charge of federal programs, and I have been in charge of ensuring that we have organizational compliance with the law. And those are all skills that I bring into this position. And this is a full-time position, and it requires the experience of having that administrative background to be able to lead a group of folks and have staff and be in charge of all of these processes and work.
Thank you. You have 4 minutes left for your closing or any other thoughts.
Great. Well, thank you again for hosting this forum. It is critical for our electorate to get to know our candidates. I am asking for your vote today because I have the knowledge, I have the experience and the disposition and the temperament for taking the role of Glendale City Clerk. I care deeply about my hometown, and I will be a fierce advocate for transparency, access, and voter empowerment. I will ensure transparency through good information, governance, and advocate for the closing of the data divide and for more services and outreach to different segments of our diverse community within Glendale, while taking into account data security. I am committed to access through ensuring that all residents have modernized and accessible city records, services, and also information. I will advocate for voter empowerment through increasing voter registration and through also educational opportunities for our residents to be more civically engaged. For example, educating the public on commissions, on city commissions, how to apply for commissions, how to get involved. I've always been able to forge friendships with people that are very different than me. And as an elected, I will bring these skills to the public realm and refocus our city on our common goals. Currently, we have 7 city electeds, and including 5 council members, a city clerk, and a city treasurer. And regardless of that, we only have 1 woman serving in a city elected position currently. We need more highly qualified women at the table, making decisions and leading our community. And as a highly qualified woman, a working mother, a former school board member and school board clerk and school board president, a professor, a former professor, a current educational specialist in mathematics, and a lifelong educator, I hope that I have gained your vote today. To find more about my campaign, please visit my campaign website at www.susieabajian.com. And thank you again for having me and for this forum.
Well, thank you for joining us. As we go ahead and conclude the forum, if you can turn your camera off and mute yourself, we are going to go ahead and draw our forum to a close. Again, I'm Grant Michaels, the president of the Women's Civic League of Glendale. On behalf of our election forum committee and our board, I do want to thank the candidates for joining us today. And again, I will say we encourage everyone to learn about the candidates. The Glendale City website is glendalevotes.org. That does list all of the candidates, including those that weren't able to join us today. The information, the timeline on the elections for June 7th. And more than that, I want to go ahead and thank our members for continuing to engage with our group, making these forums possible, and the members of the public that were able to join us today in person, and for the first time for our group, be able to watch this meeting recorded. We are going to post the recording to our social media pages. And as one of the candidates mentioned who was a member, we are looking for new members to our group to engage with and participate in these civic activities, which we all believe in. So let me thank you again for attending our forum. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.